Hello, and thank you for joining us on Weather Out West, the hour-long show where we showcase what's happening weather-wise across the western United States. I'm meteorologist Leah Pizzetti. Today is Monday, January 26th. I hope you all had a great weekend. We will get to our West Coast forecast shortly, but first we continue to track the massive winter storm that has stretched from the southern parts of the United States all the way to the Northeast. Still, more than 100 million Americans are under winter weather alerts as the massive winter storm hammers the United States right now. Much of the South, Midwest, and East Coast are seeing freezing temperatures, ice, and snow. The death toll is climbing as well. As of Monday morning, at least 11 people have died from weather-related causes, many of those as a direct result of the cold. But it also unfortunately includes a 16-year-old girl from Frisco, Texas, who was riding a sled being pulled by a pickup truck when it slammed into a tree. For the latest on the storm right now, let's go now to Lou Waldman, who is in New York City.
A monster winter storm is making its way across the U.S., battering 2/3 of the U.S. population with snow, ice, and brutally cold temperatures.
Wild, 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 wild. I haven't seen snow like this in years.
Completely frozen. What the heck?
Schools have been canceled or moved to remote learning, and flight disruptions have continued to climb, with Sunday marking the most cancellations since the COVID-19 pandemic. Ice coating trees and power lines in the south is damaging on its own, but the wind is adding an extra danger. Widespread power outages in the Nashville metropolitan area could last for days, according to the electric utility Nashville Electrical Service. In Louisiana, people are riding out the storm in warming centers after officials confirmed 2 men died from hypothermia. Up north in New York City, Mayor Zohran Mamdani says there are thousands of sanitation workers out on city streets and plows have started to clear roadways.
We really encourage you to stay home. Staying home is the safest thing you can do. It's the best thing for our city workers.
At least 20 states have declared a state of emergency in response to the historic winter storm, and many will experience its lingering effects for days and even weeks as the cold temperatures stick around. In New York, I'm Lee Waldman.
This winter storm is causing major power outages as well. Power outages have been widespread. Many residents in Donaldson, Tennessee are without electricity after an ice storm coated tree limbs and power lines that made them heavy and eventually snap. That's just one of the areas impacted like this. But Chris Knowles has more on how they are facing the severe weather together.
And that weight almost caused a tree to collapse right on top of us.
It lights it.
Neighbors in the Donaldson Hills community say that crackling sound, the sound that you just heard, has been nonstop all morning.
Like every 10 minutes, it sounds like there's another big limb crashing to the ground.
Slushy and slick roads are expected to turn into sheets of ice. Trees are stretched across streets, and thousands of homes are without power. Neighbors here call this storm a first of its kind.
We've lived here almost 20 years, and this is the worst.
I can't remember one this bad, this much ice.
For the Faircloth family, there's even more pressure. They just brought home their newborn, and now they're caring for him in the dark.
So we just came home with him yesterday. I didn't have time to prepare for this, and then the power goes out at 7 a.m. this morning, so just trying to keep him warm and fed is our main priority right now.
Despite the dangerous conditions, neighbors say community is what's getting them through this.
One neighbor comes out and starts looking at tree branches that needs to be taken off the road, and we all just come out. I think we probably had about 10 guys out here.
Now, you may have seen some headlines about this cold weather causing exploding trees. That name is a bit misleading, though. Elle Myers explains the reality of the impact this cold is having on trees.
No, I've not at all. I've never heard of them.
There's a lot of chatter about exploding trees online, but people out here braving the cold in Brighton are pretty unfamiliar with the viral phenomenon we've been hearing a lot about this week.
I didn't expect it to explode. That's quite some news.
I basically grew up in the forest, but exploding trees wasn't something I'd ever heard of before. So I asked an expert.
It sounds like gunshots. And if people are in the woods and happen to hear one of these or outside in their yard even, you'll be ducking for cover. But it's not exploding.
Craig tells me that phenomenon is called frost cracking, and it happens to certain trees when it gets well below freezing. Think -20.
We can get to a point where the sap inside the trees freezes.
Professor Craig tells me even if you're out in the woods when something like this happens, you don't have to worry about shards of wood flying around.
I mean, they'll split open and they'll open, but this notion that all of a sudden, there's shards of trees blasting through the woods, that's not the way it happens.
He says it's not uncommon either.
Not unusual to go in the woods and see trees with frost cracks that have healed over.
Take a look at these pictures here. This is what a classic frost crack looks like. Often, he says, trees can continue growing even after a major crack like these.
The main threat to the tree would be a point where other, insects, disease, other things can come in. But given time that the tree can and does heal these frost cracks over.
Getting answers for you in Brighton. I'm Elle Myers, CBS News, Detroit.
Let's take a look at the national picture right now. As you can see on that map, the precipitation has moved off to the east, but as that snow and that ice clears, what we're seeing is cold weather in its wake. So all of those dark blue areas are under extreme cold warnings on this Monday. So we are continuing to track that cold weather impacting a large portion of the United States as the actual precipitation, that snow, that ice, that rain is clearing. So Colorado is one of the areas that is feeling that chill. Let's get now to Jaden Knowles and Katie Lassell joining us from Denver with a look at how the weather is looking in Colorado.
I'm Weather Impact Team Meteorologist Jaden Knowles here in Denver, Colorado. And yes, we have been impacted by that storm system over the weekend. We saw lots of snowfall just yesterday, and we were tracking a strong cold front as well that brought these temperatures down to some of the coldest temperatures that we've seen so far for this entire winter. So looking at your 7 days forecast for this afternoon, much different than what we just saw yesterday. 45 degrees is what's forecasted. Some observed highs that we saw yesterday. We surprisingly got up to 27 degrees, but let me tell you, it did not feel like that one bit because we had that strong second cold front that made its way through kind of during the Broncos game, and that's the reason we saw those snowy conditions. As we head into early parts of this morning, though, I mean, some of those overnight lows dropped down to -1 degrees here in Denver, and then it's even some negative temperatures across the entire state. I mean, over towards the eastern plains, as well as the high countries, almost everywhere that you look, temperatures, your actual temperatures, not your wind chill values, were actually into the negatives. But as we head into this afternoon, as I mentioned, lots of sunshine. We're talking about 45 degrees, so it's going to be feeling very, very good on your skin just because we've been over 90 hours below freezing since all the way back on Thursday at 5:30. But overall, highs throughout the afternoon hours today, lots of 40s out there, the upper 30s, low 40s for the eastern plains, 20s and 30s across the high country. The rest of your 7-day forecast, get this, I mean, you're totally going to forget that just yesterday we saw all the snowfall, the bad road conditions, the gusty conditions, the low visibility, just because of this. This is how quickly Colorado changes. 45 today, 48 as we head into tomorrow. The low 50s will make a return. And then look at this, as we head into the weekend, even getting closer to the low 60s. So that is typical Colorado weather for you. But overall, I hope everyone has a terrific start to your week.
I'm 9 News Weather Impact Team's Katie Lassell. We saw some extremely cold conditions in and around the state on this Monday, January 26th. The sun has been shining, but we actually saw Denver's coldest morning in over a year. Officially 5 degrees below zero, wind chill values making it feel even colder early on. But we haven't seen temperatures this low since January 20th of 2025, 371 days ago officially. So a cold weather advisory that was issued early, and it lasted until 9 a.m. But for today, we will finally, after 90 plus hours of being below freezing in Denver, hit 45 degrees. A huge portion of the country, as we know, has been dealing with extreme winter weather. Ice, snow, frigid temperatures still impacting portions of the south and up over the Great Lakes region. But the Arctic air, at least for the west coast and here in Colorado, making its way out of the region. Our next ridge of high pressure building back in. So let's talk a little bit more about the mountains, which dropped down to well below zero readings this morning. Crystal clear, bluebird skies. And over the past 3 days, we did see some pretty significant snowfall. So So starting Thursday into Friday, lasting through the weekend, Aspen snowmass at 16 inches, over a foot in Breckenridge, 10 for Steamboat Springs. Loveland ski area for many of our Front Range mountain towns near Keystone, around 6 inches total. Not enough to really make a big dent in Colorado's snowpack. Just updated this map this morning at 58% of the median. Still not looking great statewide. It didn't make a huge impact, but especially southern Colorado, spots like Wolf Creek picking up a good dose of snow. So unfortunately, as we look ahead over the next 3 days, not really bracing for any more big winter storms. It'll be pretty calm, cool, clear, and around an inch when all is said and over the last 3 days in Steamboat Springs. No moisture, though, on tap for the Denver area. So the coldest air this morning, 40s this afternoon, upper 40s with little cloud coverage Tuesday, but a very quiet weather pattern settling in through the rest of the week and above seasonal normals on tap for this upcoming weekend.
What a swing in Denver. All right, well, it is also a bit cooler in Arizona as well. Meteorologist Ginger Jeffries has the forecast from Phoenix.
I'm meteorologist Ginger Jeffries with a look at your weather out west across Arizona, where over the weekend we picked up just a smattering of rain here or there. But I think the big weather story was the snow that came in. And oh my goodness, look at some of these photos. Jim, one of our 12 News weather watchers, sending me this photo from Pine Top. We saw over 15 inches of snow at Sunrise Ski Park and also in Snow Bowl, so closer to Flagstaff, 5 inches of the white stuff. And as you can see, yep, even those snowfall totals and the pictures certainly impressive. Rainfall, not so much. Right around 1/10 of an inch, just like we talked about, but the low really stayed to the south of us. So we didn't pick up any measurable rainfall, just trace amounts at Sky Harbor. 4/100ths of an inch, that seems to be the real popular number from North Scottsdale into Gold Canyon. That's the east side of the metro, Deer Valley and Queen Creek. So like I said, just a smattering of rain. Now today, we're still holding on to the cold air impact from that. As that cold front pushed on through, we really saw those snow elevations drop, and we could feel it too. Our temperatures came down. Today, we're still in the, 60 zone, which is right where we're supposed to be this time of the year, but we're also going to see quite a bit of cloud cover, just these mid-level clouds streaking across the sky. You can see it from end to end. I mean, Havasu, you've got a little bit of cloud cover out there today with about 68, 71 in Yuma, mostly cloudy skies. I've got 63 today in Tucson, pair of 5s in Safford, and overhead in Phoenix, about 68 degrees. So these low pressure systems, those are going to be pushing on out. High pressure's in charge, but it will allow those mid-level clouds. It's going to be nice and clear tomorrow, but more clouds building in on Wednesday. And then this high will continue to rotate through, and we've got another one just lining up off the coastline, which is going to allow those skies to clear out, and the temperatures are going to respond. So this high pressure is going to keep all the cool air and the jet stream well to the north of us. So we're going to get back to a very traditional weather pattern here in the desert. Sunny, warm, and dry today. Like I said, we still have that cold air, so we're starting off in the 40s, warming up to the 50s by about 10 o'clock, headed for the 60s by the noon hour, and we should be parking the numbers right about 68 degrees by 4 o'clock today. So this clearly is wrong. We're not going to see periods of rain today. We are just looking for nice mild conditions during the day and overnight, and then we're going to see these clouds clear out nicely for tomorrow. I mean, look at this. Through the evening hours, even overnight, we continue to see some clouds, but by tomorrow, we've got nothing but net overhead, and that's going to allow those temperatures to start responding, and so numbers will start climbing. And now I'm going to get back to looking at those record territory numbers. I mean, our records could be anywhere from the upper 70s into the upper 80s this time of the year. So as far as record worthy, we're within reach. I'll keep you posted. Until that time, look for numbers to be at about 47 tomorrow in Flagstaff. And this is going to be a theme for us as numbers continue to climb under nice clear skies. Flagstaff, I've got you in the 40s and 50s for the next 7 days. Does look like it's going to be dry, even though we'll get some periods of off and on cloud cover. And here in the valley, yes, our numbers. I mean, look at this. 68 today, mid 70s to close out the work week. And we're headed for almost 80 degrees for this weekend. Enjoy.
The rest of the country would be wishing for near 80 degrees right about now to thaw out. Well, still ahead, we are going to head to the Golden State and track the weather from California. Stay with us. Welcome back to Weather Out West on this Monday. Fog has been socked into many parts of Northern California. Meteorologist Rob Carlmark walks us through the fog potential and possible rain chances coming to Sacramento.
Hello, meteorologist Rob Carlmark here with a very different story than what the rest of the country is dealing with. I mean, we've just had very, very consistent dry weather for a while, but it's a very unusual story for us because early season rain and right around Christmas, we got just enough to get us above average, and that's where we've been living for a while. So on this Monday, we're looking at fairly quiet conditions. We've got mostly sunny skies for the coast, no rain there. Early in the morning for the valley spots, we're looking at a lot of fog in the foothills. It's going to be a cool, but it's also going to be a sunny day, so bundle up. And then for the Sierra, very mixed conditions. Very cold in the morning, usually in the teens and single digits. And then we warm up into the 40s, which is a huge difference there in temperature between morning and late afternoon. So when you look at just the raw numbers, all things considered on the West Coast, it's been extremely dry, but somehow, I don't know what's been going on, but we've got the early season storms that were so big and very, very efficient. So we are still with weeks and weeks of dry weather in January, also in December, and also going back into November. We're still above average for all of California, northern, central, and southern California. So this is good. But by the time we get to the middle to the end of this week, some of those communities are going to start to slip behind. Now, everything in between these stormy cycles has been filled with a lot of fog. And because of the early season storms, the ground has been very wet and saturated. So just that top layer is all you really need. And then when high pressure sets in, we've got sinking air. It just traps the valley areas in this very moist environment. So the other secret ingredient is wind. And we have not had a lot of wind because high pressure has been centered directly over us. So you get a lot of low clouds and fog in the morning. Above that layer, it's been very warm and sunny and nice. And then we have days and weeks of this situation. And we're going to have more of the same. But obviously, this system off the coast is big enough to really move things along just for a tiny period of time, just between Tuesday and Wednesday. So what we have is low clouds and fog. Then we're also going to have mid and upper levels of clouds. And then finally, this storm, which looks really impressive. Remember, our area of high pressure is equally as impressive. So the two meet in the middle. Low goes off to the north, and we're left with just a little bit of rain between Tuesday and Wednesday. Literally an hour or two of rain, and then that's it. Going past this, it's going to be very quiet, and it's also going to be very warm. So our big bubble of high pressure keeping us quiet, everything going around us, bringing more bad weather to the Midwest and the East Coast. That's going to continue for a while as we're looking at for at least the next week and a half, dry and warmer than normal. However, it's not completely dry. Between Tuesday and Wednesday is a weak little storm. This is going to be less than 1/10 of an inch of rain for the valley, a couple inches of snow, short-lived, all done by early Wednesday morning, and then dry with more low clouds and fog, and then clearing into the afternoon. Our temperatures today are going to be what you would expect for this time of year. If anything, probably a little bit warmer for the foothills. We've got mid-50s for most of the foothill communities, between about 1,000 and 4,000 feet. You get to Southern California and everything's looking a little bit warmer along the coast, lots of 50s and 60s. It's a pretty uniform forecast as most everybody's going to have a dry day, a little bit of cloud cover in the morning, dry in the afternoon, sunshine, and mid to upper 50s for the next 7 to 10 days in a row.
Thank you, Rob. Let's move south now to Southern California. Meteorologist Vanessa Paz is in San Diego, keeping an eye on Santa Ana wind potential for San Diego County.
Happy Monday from San Diego, California. I'm CBS 8 meteorologist Vanessa Paz. Hope you all had a beautiful weekend. I know us here in SoCal did. We had some gloomy conditions for the first half of the weekend, but then the second half we started to slowly see sunshine prevail. All right, we have a ridge of high pressure that is going to usher in some offshore winds, also known as Santa Anas. We have 2 rounds of it today as well as towards the end of the week, and we are looking at warm temperatures, especially once we look ahead to the second half of the work week. So here's that ridge of high pressure that I'm talking talking about. Again, while much of the country, about 2/3, continue to face this Arctic air along with a storm system that is just pummeling 2/3 of the nation, we are dealing with much milder conditions. That ridge of high pressure is keeping things warm now all the way through tomorrow. It's going to shimmy west, so back offshore, at least the center of it, which will keep things mild on Wednesday and Thursday, but then that ridge ends up making its way back east over Southern California, and that's going to bring us some warming Thursday and Friday. And notice that storm track, it stays well to our north. Of course, we have this area low here. It could drop south by the time we get to next week, but as of right now, it looks like the jet stream will and the storm track will stick well to our north, keeping things pretty dry for us here in San Diego for most of the work week. As we take a look at headlines, we'll have gradual warming inland. We're talking 80s by Friday. 2 rounds of offshore winds now through Tuesday, and then we'll have that secondary one on Friday. We are looking at pretty cool nights ahead. Remember, with the clearer skies, usually those clouds act like a blanket, but with the lack of those clouds, we're looking at temperatures plummeting towards the evening hours down to the 40s for not only the inland valleys, but also some of our coastal neighborhoods. As we take a look at today's highs versus where we should be for this time of year, again, a stark contrast in comparison to what the rest of the nation is facing. We're trending anywhere between 5 to nearly 10 degrees warmer than average in the mid to low 70s in downtown Chula Vista, as well as El Cajon. And for the mountain and inland valleys closer to the foothill communities, will be in the high 60s. So mild temperatures overall on tap. The desert areas will also be trending cooler than average by about 4 degrees or so. We aren't looking at any rain in the forecast, unfortunately. We're going to remain pretty dry now all the way through the weekend. We had a light spritz last week, and it looks like we are going to continue with this dry air pattern as we wrap up the month of January and say hello to February. Coastal areas will be in the low 70s, high 60s all the way through the middle of the week, but then we'll notice that rise in daytime highs by the time we get to Thursday and Friday. For most of our microclimates, it's looking like Thursday, Friday, Saturday will be some of the warmest days. In fact, take a look at the spread here. We go from the low 70s all the way to the high 70s by the time we get to Thursday. We're in the 80s by the time we touch the end of the week. And these numbers are actually a lot warmer than where we should be for this time of year. So when we talk about Friday, we'll be anywhere between about 5 to maybe close to 15 degrees warmer than normal. We stay warm all the way through the weekend, which is good for anyone who has weekend plans or is headed here to SoCal for the weekend. The mountains and desert areas will have one more day of the 50s, then we'll transition into the 60s by the time we get to the middle of the week. As I mentioned, the warmest days will be towards the latter part of the work week. Thursday and Friday we'll be touching in the 70s, and for the desert areas by then we'll be close to 80.
Thank you, Vanessa. Well, as that winter storm that we mentioned at the beginning of the show blows through most of the country, bringing snow, ice, and freezing temperatures, health emergencies experts have a message they want you to hear. We'll have that when we come back. Welcome back. As we mentioned earlier, much of the country is dealing with snow, ice, and freezing temperatures. Exposure to extreme cold can be dangerous and even deadly, as we've already seen with this storm. Mandy Gaither has more on how to stay safe in extreme cold weather and keep an eye on the signs of cold-related health emergencies experts say everyone should know.
As the temperatures drop, the danger rises. In 2023, more than 1,000 people died in the U.S. due to excessive cold or hypothermia, with the highest percentage of deaths happening in January.
Your body becomes so cold, a lot of your bodily functions just can't function the way that they're meant to.
Dr. Carl Allenby with Cleveland Clinic says if you have to go out in extreme cold, dress properly. That includes a scarf or mask that covers the face and mouth, gloves, water-resistant boots, a hat, water-resistant coat, and several layers of loose-fitting clothing. Body parts most affected by frostbite are the nose, ears, toes, cheeks, chin, and fingers.
As the coldness progresses, and the frostbite increases, you could have things like numbness. Your extremities could get very pale, and then can get hardened as well as you continue to progress through that.
When the body loses heat faster than it can produce it, hypothermia can happen. That's when there's a life-threatening drop in body temperature below 95 degrees. In adults, symptoms include shivering, exhaustion, confusion, fumbling hands, memory loss, slurred speech, and drowsiness. In babies, signs could be bright red cold skin or very low energy. Allenby says 911 should be called immediately.
You're going to rely on bystanders who realize that somebody may not be acting right, or that there's some sort of change in their mentation.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Such important things to keep in mind. After the break, we are going to head to the Northwest, where a near-record dry spell is on the cusp of breaking, but rain chances are on the way, potentially stopping that record. We'll have your Northwest forecast and the latest on if the record will be broken after the break. Welcome back. While we have been watching the massive storm in the south and east, the Northwest has been unseasonably dry, but that is expected to change this week. Meteorologist Rod Hill is in Portland, tracking the transition from cold and dry to wet and warmer.
From the Rose City, I'm meteorologist Rod Hill. We've got so many different little strings or stretches of weather going on, mostly to do with the dryness that we've had. All of that's going to be ending, and I'll show you the 7-day coming up. But starting tomorrow night into Wednesday, all of a sudden, every 24-hour period is expected to get us back to having some measurable precipitation. Now, one of those strings of consecutive days I mentioned is this one. Portland got down to 31 this morning. Roughly 10 days in a row now, we have been freezing or colder, and we don't do that often. We really don't. The coldest of the bunch was actually yesterday morning in Portland when PDX got down to 22 in parts of the Willamette Valley. Yesterday morning dropped into the upper teens. Other temperatures this morning, Eugene 26, Salem 28. We've had light moisture between Eugene and Salem, and we've been monitoring the potential that there's some light icing going on in that parts of the valley. That'll just be a morning thing as temperatures will be rising. There's Vancouver this morning at 28 and Kelso at 30 degrees. So here is a look at our satellite radar. And see the salmon color? That's that light potential freezing rain. I don't know if it's been strong enough to do any damage, so to speak, in terms of slickness on surfaces, but we've been watching that. This thicker batch of clouds will come in tomorrow, and the back half of tomorrow is when we start kicking up expecting to get some measurable precip. Most of this light moisture this morning is so far holding south of Portland, and Futurecast doesn't really show much, but keep in mind, Futurecast has not been picking up the light moisture to our south that we've actually had this morning, so take that with a grain of salt. Otherwise, a mainly dry day for the Rose City, a mixed bag of partly sunny to mostly cloudy skies. Then that cloud band offshore comes in into tomorrow morning. Now, this model says Portland and Salem stay dry tomorrow until the evening. However, I think it's at least possible if you're going to be down here on Tuesday that in the afternoon we could start seeing some showers. And then once that happens, a wave of rain overnight and then additional waves of rain expected to work through on Wednesday. Here's Wednesday at 5 p.m. And then again, every single day into the weekend, having at least some measurable rain pass. None of these look overly strong, but there could be quarter-inch rain days embedded in some of that. In fact, this weather model shows the rain coming in the back half of tomorrow through Wednesday. Could be a quarter of an inch or slightly more in the valley and a half to 3/4 at the coast. Now, if anything, I expect these numbers are likely a little bit too high, but we'll see. Our cameras show a mixed bag this morning. This is kind of ominous in a way with the darkness of the cloud base from our Snook Winds Casino Resort camera in Lincoln City. We did have frost in front of our Capitol this morning. Temperatures back down into the 20s. Downtown Portland has been dry, and then here are the numbers this afternoon at 3 p.m. showing 50s at the coast, 40s up and down I-5. All those low cloud lockdown areas did clear on Saturday, so some sun over in Bend today and also some sun breaks expected out in the Columbia River Gorge. Portland 7-day, 48 today, mainly dry. Rain showers picking up at some point tomorrow afternoon into the night. Then each day seeing some rain into the weekend. And notice Wednesday morning, 40 degrees, and then all of the lows moving forward 40 or better. So that will finally break the stretch of cold, frosty starts that we have been seeing. And that's your update.
Thank you, Rod. Well, Seattle, Washington is known for rain. We all know that. But that reputation has not been true this January. Our meteorologists in Washington have been tracking 2 weeks now of no rain at all in Seattle. But as that area approaches the record dry spell for January and could in fact actually break it, changes simultaneously arrive. Let's go now to meteorologist Ashley Ruiz in Seattle, tracking the very latest on that potential record.
A very happy Monday to you. I'm King 5 meteorologist Ashley Ruiz with a look at your forecast here in Seattle, Washington. So many people are celebrating thanks to our Hawks going to the Super Bowl against the Patriots. And I'll tell you what, we had 2 weekends in a row, playoff games with sunshine in Seattle in January, and so it really was a treat. But things are changing. We're still dry today. In fact, 2 weeks, 14 days in a row without measurable rain here in Seattle. The January record is 15 days, set back in 1963, and we're going to at least tie it. We have rain chances returning to the forecast. Now, we are also trending milder this week. We're finally getting that rain. We're finally getting some mountain snow, but it's really going to be for 4,500 feet and above. Not to say that we won't get snow at the lower elevations as well, just the best chance for accumulating beneficial snow will be above 4,500 feet. But the good thing is, regardless, we're getting some snow. We are really suffering in terms of our snowpack. Rain chances will start to increase Tuesday, but likely going to spread over the area Tuesday night. So overnight and into Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. All thanks to this ridge finally just breaking down and moving to the east, so we won't have to sit under this dry and stagnant weather pattern, though it's been so lovely having so much sun, but we really need the snow up in our mountains, especially as we're heading into February and then into March as well. This is what our week is looking like here in Western Washington. Today's the coldest day. We woke up to the 20s and 30s, upper teens over the weekend for some. Over the next couple of days, we're warming up. Our mornings are going to get warmer as well. And it's all thanks to all of this warm, moist Pacific air coming up into the Pacific Northwest. And you see this very large low spinning over the open Pacific. That's going to send waves of rain, warm rain over the area over the span of a couple of days. So I'm going to zoom out and show you the big picture, and then I'll zoom in and be able to fine tune the timing of the rain for you. But you see that low sending just waves of rain and all of this moisture. So it is an atmospheric river just sending all of this rain to the Pacific Northwest. And we need it. Yes, we know, but our snow levels are going to come up considering it's coming from the southwest instead of the northwest and just north in general. Snow levels to start should be on the lower side, maybe about 4,000 feet or so, but then climbing to about 5,000 to 6,000 feet. And so there is a good chance that we get maybe a rain and snow mix at some of the lower passes, or even a freezing rain threat for the passes. I'll show you in just a minute, but I wanted to talk about our snowpack. The red that you see for the Cascades here in Washington, the western slopes at least, and the Olympics, that's telling us where we should be this time of year versus where we're at. Less than 50% of our climatological normal. So we essentially are just really, really suffering. Again, less than 50% of where we should be this time of year. I wanted to take you up to Snoqualmie Pass, I-90, and you see we have snow, just no fresh snow. And again, we're not seeing much in the way of any accumulating snow to build on our snowpack. And typically January, February, these are the the times in the months where we build our snowpack. Now, this is just one model, but it's showing the potential through Wednesday that we get a couple of inches of snow at the passes until those snow levels come up. We'll likely get more than that. We'll see, but depends on the snow levels and when some of the bulk of the moisture will fall. If it's overnight, then sure, we'll get some of accumulating snow even at some of the lower elevations, but it's really favoring the higher elevations. What we're dealing with right now is a very weak disturbance sending high clouds over the area, mid-level clouds, maybe a couple of light showers closer to the coast. But despite all of the clouds, it's still a beautiful morning. You see the Cascades off in the distance and then taking you to Tacoma, a beautiful view of Mount Rainier. You can't really see the top of Mount Rainier, but we also had a nice little lenticular cloud as well. And then Seattle earlier this morning, still dressed in blue and green to celebrate our Hawks. And you see it's cloudy and a little bit of patchy fog. Highs today will be in the 40s and 50s. Tonight we're still cold, but not nearly as cold on west of the Cascades. Tuesday we're even warmer in the upper 40s and lower 50s. So let's talk about the timing of the showers. So today again we'll have those clouds rolling in and then more clouds build. They thicken into our Tuesday. This is our waiting period of when we're going to get this rain. The rain could move in as early as Tuesday evening for the coast, but more than likely for Puget Sound and the I-5 corridor, it's going to be overnight and into Wednesday. And some of this rain could be on the hefty side, except mainly in the morning, it's more hit or miss. The widespread rain arrives Wednesday about midday and into the afternoon, except for the rain shadow, of course, into Wednesday night. You see those yellows and oranges and reds. That's indicating the heavier rain. And through Friday, in fact, over the span of the next 7 days, we're talking several inches of rain, especially for the coast where they could see 3 to 5 plus. That's where we're expecting the heaviest rain. Before Seattle, we're expecting anywhere between maybe half of an inch up to an inch and a half or so. Just depends on where some of the heaviest rain sets up. But all in all, we're also going to get some rain in the lower elevation. So it's not just snow in the mountains. 3,000 to 4,500 feet will get a rain and snow mix. But temperatures over the next couple of days, definitely a big change. We'll have highs in the low and mid 50s.
Thank you for keeping an eye on all of that, Ashley. After the break, we will stay in the Northwest with your forecasts from Eastern Washington and Idaho. Welcome back. Those rain chances our Portland and Seattle teams mentioned are also expected to move into Eastern Washington as well. We go now to meteorologist Thomas Patrick with the forecast from Spokane.
I'm meteorologist Thomas Patrick in Spokane, Washington. A brand new week and actually a brand new week of weather, thankfully, as we'll start to move the needle, and in this case, to some warmer weather by this weekend. It's been about 2.5 weeks of just kind of same old, same old. It's like how much cloud cover, but temperatures are cool, 20s and 30s. And while we still start out pretty cold right now, things will just kind of warm up day after day, and it'll get to the point where we'll actually be closer to 50 degrees than not. So it'll happen faster than you think. And even rain chances later in the week. And of course, with this big warm up, not really tracking much in the way of low elevation snow. The mountains might still squeeze out some, but we will see how that plays out late week. So today, still kind of like one more day of same old, same old. Cold to start the day, a little bit cloudier this afternoon, and high temperatures still pretty close to their January normals. 32 Spokane, 34 in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, 36 in Pullman, to point out some of our more populous cities here. So just a shade below the average, but not by very much here. So another pretty normal January day as we'd expect. Kind of like last week, more days than not still looking cloudy. Today, it's the return of that cloud cover. It was sunny all weekend long, which was fantastic. It did help to offset some of those colder morning temperatures. Today, the clouds are here, thankfully not snowing on us, so it just ends up being, again, a pretty average day. actually a little bit more mild compared to some other parts of the country where you see all the extreme cold warnings in the wake of that huge winter storm that caused all that snow and ice buildup over the south and through the east. And while I had our full forecast map kind of tuned to that last week, I'm going to pan it back over towards the Pacific Northwest, because this is where the interesting stuff is going to happen for this week's weather, even from a national perspective. Looking at it from a big picture, it's all about the jet stream here. And as it angles from the southwest out of the Pacific Ocean, that starts to orient in a way that almost looks like an atmospheric river. And we will get impacts that are very similar to that. Increased warm up, a bit of rain here or there. As always, the west side gets more rain than eastern Washington, but we will have our fair share of rain chances ourselves. Again, this is going to warm us up by quite a bit. So again, nationally, very much warmer than average on the west side, very much colder than average for the eastern U.S. It's that ridge that you just saw that really helps to promote that warmer than average weather pattern. And while red looks very dramatic for the region, this is still signaling the likelihood of above average temperatures, not necessarily by how much. And in this case, 10 to 15 degrees above average is still a pretty good margin even for our region. That puts us into the 40s and almost close to 50 degrees. This does come with some rain chances, a little small chance on Wednesday, and if it falls early enough in the morning, we might see some snowflakes, but no snow accumulations. And that will be our only chance, because I only purely go rain chances for Thursday and Friday at a 60% chance for those days. Again, more on the west side than for eastern Washington. But there's your temperature trend. Like a staircase, we are walking upwards from the 30s today, 40s by Thursday.
Sounds like great exercise. Our final forecast today is from Idaho, where changes in the form of rain are also on the horizon there. Hector Mendoza is tracking the timing from Boise.
Lots of sunshine and blue skies this weekend. This is a look out at Soldier Mountain. Sue Gibbons posted this on our Idaho Weather Watchers Facebook page, and this was the view across most of southwest Idaho, as a lot of people were really hoping for a lot of that sunshine, as we had a whole week of just sort of clouds and that just really sticking around with us. The other thing that's going to change is going to be some of these clouds we'll see towards the beginning of the week. The thing that doesn't change is the lack of precipitation we're expecting here, especially as we look at portions of the Treasure Valley, but we'll see some increase there, as we do have a very low chance there as we head towards Wednesday and Friday. But for the most part, we stay dry across most of those valley spots. And of course, this is what it looks like. And this is just the outlook we've seen so far for the 25-26 season in terms of snowfall here in Boise. Last measurable snowfall we got was November 30th. So it's been a while since we've seen any sort of snow make its way down here through the Boise area. It's the slowest start we've seen on record. Now, to put this into perspective, the least amount of snow we've seen in a season is a little over an inch, and that was back in 34. The last snowless January was back in 2003, and it looks likely that that continues, and we are going to see another snowless January here for the 25-26 season. But as we take a look here for the mountains, we are expecting some of these shower chances to really start to increase as we get towards the end of the week. A lot of these chances will start to increase a little bit more each and every day, getting towards the wrap up of the work week. But in terms of intensity and how much of that snowfall is expected, it's really not expecting to bring in too much here through some of those mountain spots. A lot of these snow levels will start to drop to around 3,000 to 4,000 feet as we head towards Wednesday and Thursday. But the dry conditions, all of that due to this ridge of high pressure that's going to continue to make its way through. A lot of the moisture that we've seen coming in through portions of the Pacific Northwest will start to dry out as it makes its way through southwest Idaho, as we do continue with some of the drier conditions. So looking at the 7-day forecast, the one thing that we can anticipate is warmer temperatures heading into Friday. So from the low 40s here on Tuesday into the upper 40s on Friday. And then as you look at the weekend, a lot of these temperatures climbing up about 10 degrees above average, around 50 degrees, with some of these morning temperatures finally climbing out of that freezing territory there. And that's going to be similar conditions here for the 7-day forecast as we look at Twin Falls and spots there in the Magic Valley, as we'll continue to see a lot of those temperatures rising back up. A little bit more of that sunshine coming along for the Magic Valley. the mountains will see a lot more of that sunshine here, as we're going to see a inversion start to strengthen here through today and in through tomorrow. A lot of that gets broken down as we head towards the end of the week, as we do have a couple of systems that start to make its way through. So looking at this upper level pattern, you'll start to notice it breaks down just a little bit more as we head closer in through Wednesday. Then we'll start to see a little bit more of this ridge start to strengthen up again here as we get towards Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And this is what's going to keep our temperatures warm. Here's where we stay dry, and a lot of those systems that we're seeing coming in are going to get pushed up further north, and that is why a lot of those drier conditions look to stick around here for Saturday and Sunday. There is a possibility that we start to see a little bit more of that as we move on ahead here towards the beginning of next week. But again, really not anticipating much of that moisture, and really going to stick around and start to see that warming trend really start to begin to intensify as we head towards Wednesday.
Thanks, Hector. Well, still ahead, a mind-blowing, life-threatening stunt has now been accomplished. He climbed El Capitan in Yosemite National Park without any rope, and now he has scaled a skyscraper. Still ahead, meet Alex Hanold and his latest free solo achievement that was all live streamed. Finally today, American Alex Honnold, one of the world's most well-known free climbers, scaled his way to yet another impressive accomplishment, and this life-threatening stunt was all live streamed so the world could watch. The feat was initially delayed due to rain in Taiwan, but then went off without a hitch. Van Watson has the story.
Alex Honnold on the top of Taipei 101. Over 500 meters, 1,667 feet above the Taiwanese capital. He got there in just over 90 minutes on Sunday, scrambling up its 101 stories, with no rope, no harness, and no net to catch him if he fell. It's what's known in the climbing world as free soloing. One wrong move would have sent Honnold plunging to his death. The climb streamed live by Netflix in a glossy production. But while millions tuned in, Netflix kept a 10-second delay. If Honnold fell, the feed would have cut. In the end, the world's most famous climber completed the anxiety-inducing challenge. He even performed for crowds and cameras along the way.
The biggest challenge was staying calm. Having all the people around, it just makes it feel a little more intense. And then as I climbed, I relaxed more and more. I was like, oh, this is so fun. I mean, this is why I do it. It was incredible.
Honnold's Achievement Sunday is the world's largest urban free solo effort. It came a day later than planned after Honnold postponed Saturday for bad weather.
I sadly will not get to climb the building today because it's raining.
Before he took the climb, he told CNN he wasn't afraid at all.
There's preparation, there's training, there's rehearsal, there's the 30 years that I've spent as a professional climber practicing this exact kind of thing. I mean, I would consider that a safety net. But no, if you mean, is there an actual net deployed? No, there isn't.
For Honnold, the appeal of free soloing comes in the total focus he must display. It is the ultimate example of living in the moment. In 2018, Honnold shot to global fame as the hero of free solo, a nail-biting and Oscar-winning documentary on his successful climb of El Capitan in Yosemite National Park, again with no rope. But free soloing is controversial. Many of its practitioners have died, and many in the climbing world, outdoor communities, and brands feel they can't encourage it. The live TV-rigged cameras and drones for Honnold's ascent of Taipei 101 didn't seem to faze him, as he completed what he says was a lifetime goal, one that may never be matched. Ivan Watson, CNN, Hong Kong.
Meanwhile, some of us get nervous when we're at the top of a stadium. Well, that does it for us here on Weather Out West on this Monday, January 26th. I'm meteorologist Leah Pizzetti. Thank you for sticking with me for the last hour. We will be back here tomorrow. Have a great day.